Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop where we're going to be diving in how to move your art business very quickly online to establish your online art biz. We've got a ton to go through. This really is a boot camp. So I'm hoping that you've got coffee in hand, if that's, or tea, if that's your caffeination of choice, a glass of water, because we all need to hydrate, a pen or a pencil, because you're going to be doing some writing, and a pad of paper to take notes on. Now, I sent out the workbook for today in the email that went out earlier, and it's also in the portal in the lesson tab for today. So if you don't have that printed out, you don't have to have it printed out. If you don't have it downloaded, that's okay. It's the slides. We're going to be going through them. But when we have a break, you might want to download it so that you have it to look at. But if you haven't done that yet, no worries, no panic attacks. Don't run over to go figure out where that is. So this is the one we're working on right now, the Online Art Biz Bootcamp. And when you log in, it's going to look like this. And there's just a little welcome message. And then there's a spot that says Start Here. The Start Here gives you the link to the resource guide. Remember, I promised that I was going to give y'all a resource guide on the suggestions I have for your platform. So if you followed me for any length of time, you know that I advocate that everybody, all artists need this. And I don't care if you eventually plan to go back to just serving people in physical brick and mortar spaces. You still have to have an online platform in order to survive in today's business world. So in order to do that, you need a website, you need an email list, and you need a social media hub. You don't have to have all those right now, but I've got the links to the resources, the suggested platforms that I recommend to my students for those 3 things. So the links are there, and the links on how to set it up are in there as well. You don't need to download that right now. In fact, you don't need to download that at all this week. You can take time over the next few weeks to gradually set that up. That's a long to-do list project. It can take time to set up a web platform, an online platform. So you don't have to do that right now. You can actually run a small, quick promotion without having all of that stuff set up. We're going to talk about what you have to have in just a second. But I want you to download that at some point soon. If you want to download the Start Here video, you can do that too. But there's a little video introduction there that walks you through just the general overview of what we're going to be doing in the boot camp. Then in the page for today, you can download the workbook for today. And that's a copy of the slides with space if you want to write on it. It's not a fillable PDF, and I'm going to tell you why it's not in just a second. It's a regular PDF. So I wouldn't worry about printing it out right now. I would just take notes on it if you want to, or take notes on a pad of paper. That is probably more effective than trying to go print things out if you haven't downloaded this already. So that's where that stuff is. So it's a pretty straightforward, clean shoot. You just go to artworkliving.com, log in. You'll be at the course library, click on the boot camp, and there you are. I am the queen of handouts, as my students used to call me at college. So there will be handouts. And I want you to write. This is why it's not a fillable PDF. Stop sharing for a sec. You learn better, information sinks in faster and connects with your brain more when you write by hand. It's very important that you write your answers to the questions that we're going to look at today by hand. And if you get all obsessed with trying to type it into the computer, it's not going to connect here nearly as well. So it's messier to write it by hand, but nobody's checking your handwriting and nobody's checking your spelling. You can go back and type it up later if you want to. In fact, I recommend doing that, because when you go back through notes and you redo them and type them in, again, it imprints on your brain in a whole different way. So I want you to write by hand today. And I want you to write. Don't just listen. And I don't want you to multitask. So if you've got 42 other tabs open on your browser, I see you. Close those things. Because if you're trying to multitask, you're not going to be able to focus and you're not going to get as much out of the boot camp. So please don't go scrolling through Facebook and answering other posts. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself the biggest benefit possible by not doing that. Stay with me. So I want to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to do. My other tool of choice is for plotting and planning, sticky notes in multiple colors and multiple sizes. So those of you who are already my students, y'all know you got to have some of these. And I'm going to recommend that you order yourself some from Amazon today, so that as you're planning out your promotion, you can use the sticky notes to keep yourself on track. So we are going to dive right on in now that everybody knows where to find your portal so that you can get your downloads and get those all set up. I am going to switch over here. We are in boot camp. So one of the reasons that I called it boot camp is that boot camp implies that you're getting scrappy. And that's what we're doing here. We're going to get messy. We're going to get dirty. We're diving in. And it means we're working in a really concentrated period of time. What you produce over the course of these 3 afternoons does not have to be pretty, and it's not going to be perfect. But I want everyone to remember that done is better than perfect. And if you try to create perfection, if you wait to promote until it's perfect, if you wait to go online until you have the perfect website with all the bells and whistles, you'll never do it. Now is the perfect time, using the wrong word there, now is the best time to be going online. And I think it's incredibly important right now. Here's why it's the best time. People are at home. People are browsing online. A lot of people all day long. The number of people who are on social media for prolonged periods of time during the day is huge. The number of people who are aimlessly shopping on Amazon is huge. So I have a good friend and former student who texted me probably a week ago, and she said, "Somebody save me. I'm clicking on all the things and I'm buying stuff I know I don't need." People are buying things. Part of that has to do with our nesting instincts when we're feeling challenged or we're feeling stressed or we feel anxiety. But another part of it has to do with a refocus when we're in times like this. People will actually buy more expensive items than you think they will. This is one reason I've told people, don't hesitate to promote your artwork right now. And do it in a way where you're not trying to take advantage of a situation and be one of those smarmy people who's going, you know, the world is ending, we're going to die, and you need to buy my painting now. That's gross. Don't do that. But people are buying expensive paintings. And think about some of the reasons why they might be doing that. People are buying expensive paintings because they're at home all day long. And they want to make their home a more magical, warm, safe, peaceful, nourishing environment. Your work can help them do that. People are buying online courses, like maybe your live workshops could become, because they want something to do while they're at home. So it is a great time to have an online business. And there are all kinds of reasons why it's easy and necessary to do it now. Doesn't have to be perfect. So it's an online Art Biz Bootcamp, because I believe even a brick and mortar business needs an online platform. It's incredibly important. We're going to be going through today. First, we're going to be talking about, I'm just going to give you a quick introduction. We're going to talk about the basic tools that you need online. I'm going to talk about the things that are in that resource guide. Then we're going to talk about the 3 things that we're going to be covering each day. And I'm going to dive into the sections of what we're going to be talking about with the audience part today. Mostly today, we're going to be talking about your audience and perfect clients, your perfect people. Tomorrow, we're going to be focusing on your offer. So these are the 3 things that you got to do to produce a minimally viable promotion. Remember, it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be done. So we're going for the minimal viable promotion. The least amount of stress, the least amount of tech, and the least amount of anxiety and hard work. And if, like one of my students, I think she may be on here, if, like one of my students, it gets you all heebie-jeebie to call it a launch, call it lunch, and we're going to all eat it. So remember, we're promoting. And so we need to first set up our minimally viable audience and know who our perfect clients are and where they hang out. Then we've got to create an offer that is in alignment with what they need and what they want. And then we need to promote it in a way that doesn't feel slimy, doesn't feel like you're trying to take advantage of the situation, that feels like it's selling itself. And when you do it right, that's how it works. You don't have to be a perfect salesman. Because the truth is, what makes somebody a good salesman is not what they do with their mouth. It's not what they do with talking or even the words that they write. What makes somebody a good salesman is using these. It's people who listen and listen well. The best salesmen listen incredibly well. So the secret sauce to what we're going to be talking about for the next 3 days are some tools and techniques and strategies, big picture strategies, for ways you can listen to what your ideal customer, your ideal client wants, and then give it to them. And when you give people what they want, they go, hallelujah, and they buy it. So those 3 parts are how we're dividing up these 3 days. And we're going to be diving into your audience and your perfect client today. But in order to do that, you first need to know your why. So I want everybody to get your pen, your pencil, and your piece of paper, because this is your first writing assignment. Now, I think a lot of people have heard of like your purpose-driven life, knowing your purpose, knowing your why. Simon Sinek has written an incredible book on knowing your why, has an incredible program around that, and has done at least 2 TED Talks that I know of about the importance of why. Now, when he's talking about that, he's talking about the big, deep purpose why that drives your entire life. We're not going quite that deep right now. I want to talk about the why that's a couple of levels up above that. What is it that made you sign up for boot camp? What is it that you want to accomplish. Why are you here? Why do you want to do a promotion right now? Here's some things that it might be you. See if this is one of these options is you. You might have been painting for a while and you haven't done much selling of your work before, but you got some time on your hands and you realize the importance of getting online and you want to see if there's a market for your work. So your initial goal is to sell a painting. It's to find an audience to start basically from scratch. Great place to be. And if getting online is your first step towards making a sustainable business around your studio practice, kudos, fantastic. You're organizing it from the ground up. Or you may have mainly relied on your gallery sales, working with a gallery, co-op gallery, regular professional gallery, or nonprofit gallery. You may have been relying on those sales for your basic income. And galleries are, unless they already had a really strong online presence, some of them are struggling. That's certainly what happened back in 2008 when we had the downturn at that time. That's actually what drove me online. I already had an online presence, but that meant that I really put it into hyperdrive. If you need to replace your income from gallery sales by creating your own online, in essence, gallery, then that might be your goal, that you want to make some money from selling your paintings. You might be an artist who's been teaching workshops live or taught a live class, and suddenly you can't have people come into your studio or come into your home. You can't gather a group of people together because it violates shelter-in-place restrictions. There are easy ways that you can continue that exact same class, workshop, or lesson by just pivoting online. And we're going to talk about some of the tools to do that too. And again, now is a great time. It was a great time before the pandemic to be teaching online. It's an even better time now. There are people who need to hear from you. There are people who need to get their creative juices flowing while we're going through stuff. You may be a gallery owner. You may manage a co-op gallery, and you need to reach out to your clients in a way that you can't do anymore, or you can't do the same thing you've been doing because you can't meet people physically in your space. So you need to get an online presence going. So think about what your why is. And for a lot of people, it's income, and that's fine. Don't ever feel guilty about making an income from your art. We all have to eat, and it does not mean that you're selling out, not one little bit. Because if you are making money from serving your audience, you're serving. And the cycling through of money is the byproduct of your serving your perfect people. It's important to do that. You don't know what kind of impact your art might have on your audience, paid and unpaid. You need to serve them now more than ever, whether you're a gallery owner or an individual artist or a teacher. Your people need you, and now they really need you. So you need to get online. So it's might be serve, it might be money, financial, any of those reasons. I want you to write it down. And I want you to write it down with your pen or pencil on paper and not feel any guilt about it. And if you have a number that you're going to shoot for over a certain time period, make it realistic, write that down too. And you don't have to share that at all, but you need to get that number down, and you need to think about what your why is. When I first started online, I've had my website for almost 30 years, maybe 25 years now. I can't remember exactly when I bought the domain name, but it was back in the 90s. I was one of those early techno geeks who created websites by coding HTML. And so I've been around the online world for a really long time. And when I first was doing it, it was mainly for getting visibility for my artwork, to reach out to potential galleries, to reach out to potential museums and art commissions, statewide, regional, national. I was using it to promote my art. I really wasn't using it to sell it, but I was using it for marketing. Then 2008 happened. And 2008, with that crash and the Great Recession, well, I think it was a third of the galleries in the US closed. And it got really tight. I was relying on sales out of my studio, direct sales, and through the galleries that I worked with. And a lot of those dried up. So I worked double time to get the sales aspect going on my website. And so that's how I taught myself how to do it. And it doesn't have to be as long a struggle as people like me had in trying to figure it out from the ground up. When I first started, 2008 through 2010, my why was money. In fact, it probably was still money through 2015, because that was the year I really wanted to get out of academia. So my why was I wanted to replace my income that I made as a college art professor, and I'd been there full-time for 25 years. So I needed to replace a certain amount of income. That was a real concrete number. And that why drove my fanny to sit down at the computer to get that work done. Your why will drive you. That's why you need to know what it is. It's the thing that's going to make you sit in front of a computer screen when you're tired and you just want to go to bed. It's the thing that's going to make you sit in front of the computer screen when there are a lot of distractions around. So you got to know your why. Later, your why can enlarge. It can become a whole different thing. It can become less about the money and more about changing the world or having an impact. But keep that why right in front of you. And in fact, I would eventually put it on a sticky note and put it in your studio or above your computer where you're going to see it each and every day, because that will remind you why you're doing what you're doing. So super important. So yes, the number is how much money you want to make, Anne and Sally. It's the amount of money you want to make. So let me go back here and just double check on the questions that people have. Yeah, Sheila says the goal is to reduce the number of paintings in her home. Absolutely. I think, Sheila, one of your other goals is impact. You know, you love the national parks and you want to ignite that passion in your audience too. The author of that book, Virginia, was Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. And I will put that, I'll put some links to that onto the portal, the workshop portal for lesson 1. I'll also type his name in here. Simon Sinek, he's a fantastic person. And somebody was saying that Carrie's saying all of her galleries are closed. I think that's true for a lot of people. I'm lucky that my dealer has an online presence and has clients around the country, and he's still operating. But it's hard. It's really hard. So we need to, if you've got a dealer, a gallerist that you work with, you need to be a partner in it. You need to help them help you. So yes, Steed put it in there. It's Simon Sinek, Start with Why. He's an Leaders Eat Last is another one of his books. He's got a number of books on that. So, oh, Carrie, you're in a great spot then. Carrie says she's been selling online and giving free online workshops, and now she wants to sell more expensive stuff and cut back on shows and things. That's a great why. So type in, those of you who want to, go ahead and type into the chat roll what your why is. If you feel like sharing it, share it. Because if you share it, you make yourself accountable. So if you feel comfortable doing it, go ahead and type into the chat roll what your goal is. What's your why? Why are you wanting to promote? What is it that you want to do? Sheila wants to move the paintings out of her house. Sheila wants to promote the national parks. Carrie wants to sell more expensive paintings. Sarah is creating her online art business and she's replacing her interior design business. Peggy wants to sell her photographs and eventually her paintings. And Leslie wants to sell her paintings. Carrie says she'd like to make $20,000 from online sales and workshops this year. I love that big, audacious goal. So when y'all are setting numbers, I want y'all to read through some of those goals. I think they'll inspire you. Think about people's whys and see if you can get some inspiration from what the others have down there. As you're setting that number or that idea down, there's a way you can phrase it that makes it far more likely that you're going to hit them. A lot of times when people set goals, they make them astronomical and dream goals. And then if they don't hit it, they beat themselves up and say, I'll never be able to do it. Don't do that. Instead, start with a goal that you know that you can hit. One that you know is a reasonable target. And that's the bottom goal. That's your good goal. Then you're going to create your better goal. Your better goal is the thing that's just a little bit of a stretch. And you know that it's going to mean that you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Then the third number would be your way wonky, big, audacious, hairy, fantastic goal. The one that you know you're going to be stepping way across the chasm out of your comfort zone. And you don't have to share all those, but stretch yourself a little bit. So start with a good goal that's one that you can hit, then better and best, and you'll be far more likely to get to that target. So I'm hoping everybody has gotten something written down. Surgeon Sally says, replace some of my income from my real job and clear some of these paintings out. That's a great goal. That was where I started with it, was I wanted to replace my income from teaching. And I had to move some paintings out. Steed says, I used to do shows and fairs and sold a little online. I want to get my work out there and make a sustainable living working from my studio. And it's absolutely possible to do that. So back in the day, pre-2008, when I sold out of my studio, it was mainly from my snail mail database. And I was just starting to use email marketing and galleries. And so I really wasn't doing that much online marketing. It's so much easier now. And I used to actually do shows and fairs too, a long time ago. It's a lot easier now because we all have access to those online tools. Sharon says, I want to sell my paintings. Absolutely. Sharon, set some numbers for yourself. And you don't have to share that, but set the good, better, and best goals for yourself. And that'll make it a whole lot easier. Jessica, that's a fantastic one. Increase engagement and following base. That's, you know, one of my mentors has been preaching that at all of us, is that now is the time to be growing your email list and nurturing and growing engagement in your audience if you've already got one. So if you've already got an audience, now's the time to grow it, because like I said, they need you. They really do. Angie says, I want to grow my business from home or studio that has potential to expand into something bigger. And I want to learn how to teach and do it online. That's a fantastic goal. So I'm not going to read through all of them because we got dozens and dozens of them in here and they are all so stinking good. So I'm going to put, I think we can do this. I shouldn't promise. Well, I can certainly put the text file in there. I'll include the chat roll on the page so that y'all can see the comments there and download that after we log off too, so that you have a chance to go back through the comments as well as watch the video recordings. So Lots and lots of good stuff in here. And I love the big, hairy, audacious goals that people are putting on there. Oh, Bobby, if you say audacious, that means you need to do it. And you need to stretch beyond last year's number. If last year's number was the best you've ever done, that's now your good goal, because you know you can do it. What's the better and best? That's not audacious quite yet. So really push that out there. Make sure you've got something written down here for your why before we move on. Oops, I did not mean to open that. An operator error. So the basic tools, and these are the tools that you want to build out over time. These are the bells and whistles, and they're links to how to establish these in that resource guide. We're not going through all of these over the next 3 afternoons, because we're going to talk about, remember, the minimal viable promotion. So these are the tools you need. You need a social hub, social media hub. You need Facebook and Instagram business accounts. We're actually going to do some of this. You need at least a Facebook for what we're going to be doing. Facebook and business Instagram accounts. Those are different from personal profiles. Facebook actually has terms of service that say don't conduct business on a personal profile. So you need to make sure you've got a business page. Another reason to have a business page is that lets you advertise. That lets you run paid promotions. And don't do that until you get some organic stuff established, or you can waste a lot of money. But now is also still a pretty good time to be running Facebook ads. I have an ad that I run all the time that usually costs me 11 cents a person. And that's a person going to read a blog post on my website. So some of y'all may have found me from that ad. So it costs me 11 cents every time somebody clicks the link and goes to my website to read that blog post. Right now, it's costing me 4 cents. It's costing me almost a third of what it normally costs. So ads are cheap right now, but you got to have a Facebook business account in order to run those. You need a personal email address. These are the basic things that we're going to be working with. Sorry, I'm giving you the short list first and not the long list. You don't have to have your business email system set up yet. You can use your Gmail account or your Bell South account or whatever for the minimal viable promotion. You need the business Facebook page, but you don't have to have the business email list going yet. You might not have anybody on an email list. You might have 34 people on an email list. You might have 500. It doesn't matter right now. And I don't know if Heidi is on here, but Heidi is a Painter's Path student. Heidi sold 4 paintings in March and sold paintings in March. I don't know if CL is on right now. CL sold paintings in March. Heidi, yeah, there's Heidi. Heidi, you had a really small list when you sold those paintings, didn't you? I'm not sure if I can remember how many it was. I think it was 31. So Heidi sold paintings with 31 people on her email list. So it doesn't have to be really big. You can do what we're going to be talking about doing, though, just with your Gmail account, and it'll work fine. So it doesn't have to be super large yet. And, people go around, especially in the bigger internet online business world, puffing their chests out and going, well, I have 100,000 people on my email list. I have 20,000 people on my email list. I have 10,000. And it's a vanity metric, because if only 10% of the people are opening those emails, the fact they've got so many really doesn't matter. And the average open rate on business email systems, the ones that come out, the bulk emails, is about 15%. People get all excited if they get between 15 and 20%. Now, most artists get a lot more than that. and everybody's getting more opens right now because people are reading their email. But artists tend to get closer to 40 or 50%. And I know that a number of people in Painter's Path are getting 60 and 70% open rates right now. You don't have to have that set up yet. You can do it just with your Gmail. Then you need PayPal. Yeah, Catherine sold a painting this week with 22 people. So you don't have to have a whole bunch on there. Then you need a PayPal business account or something that can accept money. You can have people send you a check. I'm not super fond of that because that takes time. The check has to come to you and then you have to ship the painting out. It is a whole lot easier if you have something like Square or PayPal. Venmo will work, but I don't like it because you don't have any buyer protection on there. I would not recommend Venmo. PayPal makes it super easy to set up a business account. And then you can just send them a link to pay for whatever it is that they're buying. It can be sent through email, it can be sent through Facebook Messenger, it can be sent through Instagram Messenger. So PayPal business account is awesome. Then you need a computer and a smartphone or a tablet. And the reason you need the phone or the tablet is to take photographs. It's if you have a course and you need to use Zoom to get to your students, to get in front of your students. You can do that with just your smartphone or your iPad. If you've got just the camera on your computer, that will work. So you don't have to have some fancy pants videos set up. In fact, that really doesn't work anymore. It's so much easier to use something like a camera or the camera that's in the computer or your mobile phone. Doesn't have to be fancy. You know, they're doing Saturday Night Live right now from people's living rooms using their cell phones. So people expect low tech right now. And you need internet access. So if you have those 5 things, you're golden and ready to go. Later on, you want to put together the parts that are going to create your solid online platform. You want to create a website. You need a business email list, and you need to really branch out on your social media hub. But you don't have to worry about that right now. You can build that out bit by bit. So Joanne's asking a really good question. She says, is the PayPal business account different from your regular PayPal that you have set up? Yeah, it is a little bit different. It doesn't require anything more than going in there and either switching the PayPal personal account you already have to business, that's what I did, or creating a second PayPal account that's just for business. And the reason you want to do that is that when you have a business account, you get the ability to send invoices. So you can send an invoice to your clients, your students, or your collectors via email. And you can do that directly from within PayPal. And you can paste that that link into a message in Instagram DMs, direct messages, or in Facebook Messenger. So you do need a business account. SquareUp is a great company. A lot of people prefer that. Both PayPal and Square will let you take credit cards. So people can pay via credit card when you've got one of those accounts. And it doesn't cost anything to set them up. And is PayPal more expensive than Square? No, they're about the same. I don't think there's really much difference between the two. I have both. Mainly because I needed Square for something else. I don't even remember why I got it to begin with. I hardly ever use it. I use PayPal all the time. The thing that hangs people up about those a lot of times is that whatever payment gateway, and that's what that is a payment gateway, whatever one you use, it's going to charge a service fee. It's going to charge a percentage of what you get paid. That's the cost of doing business. And if you go through a bank, they're going to charge you for running credit cards too. So it's about 2.9% roughly for any of those payment gateways, and you just have to build that into your pricing. Venmo is owned by PayPal. And here's why I don't like Venmo. Venmo, you just enter the email address and the money is sent straight to that email address. If you enter the email address wrong, you're out of luck. There's no way to get that money back. PayPal has what they call buyer's protection, and PayPal is a lot more secure. People feel much more comfortable when they don't know you sending money via PayPal than they do via Venmo, because they know that if they have a problem with what they've bought, they can go and complain at PayPal. They can't complain at Venmo. There's no recourse, none whatsoever. Don't use Venmo. I don't think that's a good business practice at all. So, yeah, people are talking about accounting software. We're not going to get into that at all right now, because that's when you really get down the road and get stuff set up. Those are tools, and there are a lot of digital tools out there that are fancy, like lead pages and all sorts of other stuff, and fancy Kajabi websites that will host your courses. We don't need to go there. Stick with, for right now, something like Zoom for delivering your workshop or your class. And you can do that live. Your students can come into the Zoom room and you can all see each other. They can watch you paint. You can watch what they do. And that's free right now. I can't remember how long Zoom lets you go on a free account at a time. I think it's 45 minutes to an hour, something like that. I think they extended it during the pandemic. With a paid Zoom account, you can go longer than that, and it's like $15 a month. So Zoom is a great tool. Don't worry about platforms yet. If you really want to look into platforms, Teachable and Thinkific are really good ones that have a free plan that are not going to charge to get started. A personal email account, can I set up a different one for my art business than I use regularly for my family and friends? Yeah, in fact, I would. So I have studio@marygilkerson.com that's for my art business. And then I have another one that's for my family and friends. So yes, you can set up more than one email account. You can have more than one Gmail account. You can have 45 Gmail accounts if you want to. So definitely have a separate one. I think that's a really, really good idea. So website, if you want to have one set up, you can put a one-pager up and that'll be fantastic. You don't have to do that right now. Business email list, that's something like MailChimp, ConvertKit, Drip, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact. All of those are bulk email service providers. You can't send bulk emails via Gmail. That's illegal. So once you set up an email list, you have to do it through an email service provider in order to be in alignment with the law. And the one that I recommend is MailChimp. So there's a lot of stuff in the resource guide on that. Social media hubs in order of importance: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, actually, believe it or not, LinkedIn. So those, and Twitter can be sort of important too, but it's not as important as the rest. Don't try to get them all going at one time. And we're going to use Facebook, and I think Instagram's good to start. You don't have to have a big following on there yet, but we're going to use Facebook to find our people. So that's why you need the Facebook business account now. So yeah, lots of websites have a newsletter program included in the price, and that's true. FASO does, and I recommend FASO as a website builder for artists, FASO and Squarespace. The plus to FASO is that they include at the gold level an email service. The minus to that is it doesn't have as many bells and whistles as MailChimp, but it's great for getting started. So look at some of those, but those are the two main ones that I recommend. But remember that all you need for our quick and dirty, scrappy, our minimally viable promotion are the things that are right here. You don't need the fancy pants stuff. You don't have to have an Etsy account. You don't have to have a FASO account. You don't have to have a MailChimp account. You just got to have the basics right here.